Hi, I'm Meredith Hutchison Hartley.
I'm Frank Hutchison.
And I'm Emily Geddes.
And welcome back to the Hidden History of Business podcast. Today we're going to continue our discussion of beer and fermented beverages in history by talking about South America. Emily, you've done a lot of research into this.
Well, what I found really interesting about South America is there's so many different cultures that have existed in South America in the past, and every single one of them came up with their own way of doing things. And we're specifically talking about beer or alcoholic beverages, but based on the regions that they lived in, the crops that grew there, the technology that they had available to them at the time, they all kind of took their own different spin on beer, or what we call beer. So we have Mayans who made honey wine called balque. I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation.
Mayans will forgive you.
I'm so glad. There's a tree called the balque tree. They fermented the bark of the tree in water with the honey to create this wine because, again, that tree was native to their area. There's the tepache is an alcoholic beverage in Mexico that was created by fermenting pineapple because that's what they had available to them. A lot of different cultures in South America used corn or maize as the base for their alcoholic beverages, and you have variations on that. The chicha is one of the more, I guess, well-known ones. It can also be made of the cassava root, but primarily corn. And this is kind of a fun, icky little trivia. It was the beginning of that process was that you would chew the corn or the corn flour and then spit it into bowls. And it was the enzymes in the saliva that helped to break down the sugar in the corn.
And that's something we see all over the world. Almost every primitive culture has some variation on chewing something, and that's how a lot of people discovered that this was even possible.
I'm glad that's not how it's done today.
well, yes, but
it also goes back to how did they discover doing this in the first place? Like the tree bark. Who would put tree bark in water, add some honey, and then let it sit around for a while? Why? How did it happen?
So what else did you find, Emily?
There were some other really interesting bases for these beverages. Fruit juice was often used. The maquey fruit, which is where agave comes from, was used to make pulque in Mesoamerica.
It's a nice predecessor for tequila.
Yes. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Cauim. Cauim? Cauim. It's from Brazil. And it was used, similarly to chicha, it was made by fermenting the cassava or the maize, but it was flavored with fruit juices, so you kind of got a different spin on it there. Plantains were also used, or this one I found very interesting, tiswin. This was more in North America, in the southwestern United States, the native tribes, maybe the Apache.
Navajo.
Right, they used different sap. Like the Iroquois fermented sap from the sugar maple tree. But again, they used the plants that they had around them. They used the staples of their diet to create this alcoholic beverage. It was another variation on, bread is beer, beer is bread. One other interesting thing about the chicha is that it was used by the Incans in the Incan Empire hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Since they didn't have a monetary system like we know it today, Aka was used. Did I say that Aka is another name for chicha? I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Aka is another name for chicha. Aka is what the Incans called this beverage that was made from fermented corn, chewed up and spit out. And the Incans used Aka for economic exchange since they didn't have what we think of as money. So that's another aspect of how the alcoholic beverage was so important to their society.
Basically a barter system based on a standard commodity.
Right.
Well, and I was reading that they didn't drink it with their food. Normally, they consumed it after they'd already eaten. So they would eat twice a day, and then they would drink the chicha immediately afterwards. And it's not a really strongly alcoholic drink, or at least it wasn't at the time. So it wouldn't really be intoxicating. It was just that next part of the meal.
Well, and quite a few of these beverages were not very heavily alcoholic. A lot of these were just mildly fermented, mildly alcoholic drinks.
Enough to preserve them and keep them safe.
Exactly. That were consumed by children, adults, everybody in the society.
If you'd like to learn more about the subject that we discussed today, you can find multimedia content, links to articles we discussed, and videos on our website at www.hiddenhistoryofbusiness.com. You can also find us on Facebook as The Hidden History of Business and on Twitter as well. Thanks for listening.